Have you ever tried to borrow books from the library? The process is usually, sign them off so you can take them home, right? Some are so strict that they ask for some form of ID that you can leave behind to ensure that you return the books, which is why it's perplexing to think that secret documents taken out when President Biden was VP were just completely forgotten. Today, we're talking about the timeline and all the players involved in all this, at least the players that we know of. But back to the library card idea, right? Wouldn't this have had to be taken from the National Archives? And wouldn't they at least have a record of when these documents were taken out and by whom? Or were they just not aware at all? It makes it seem like a basic public library can take better care of its books than our government can take care of our national secrets. Now, I want to ask one question before we get deeper into this thing. Do you guys think that the keeping of top secret documents by both former President Donald Trump and then former Vice President Biden the same? Drop a quick comment yes or no on that one. And also, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for your daily dose of the truth when it comes to Washington, D.C., the state of our economy, Social Security, SSI, SSDI, SNAP and EBT benefits, the stock market, housing market, and anything that affects our families and our bank accounts. Also, if you own a home, make sure your home is protected. Get your free home warranty quote. There's a link down below in the description of this video. Now, think about some of the most surprising moments in history. Off the top of my head, I can probably think of the Cleveland Cavaliers coming back 3-1 to beat the Golden State Warriors back in 2016, the pandemic being announced back in 2020 when the Queen passed away last year, and in 2023, the leak of top secret documents being found all over the place, all of them being pinned on a then Vice President Joe Biden. The president has finally commented on these documents, and this is what he had to say.
People know I take classified documents and classified information seriously. When my lawyers were clearing out my office at the University of Pennsylvania, they set up an office for me, secure office in the Capitol. The 4 years after being vice president, I was a professor at Penn. They found some documents in a box in a locked cabinet, or at least a closet. And as soon as they did, they realized there were several classified documents in that box. And they did what they should have done. They immediately called the archives, turned them over to the archives, and I was briefed about this discovery and surprised to learn that there were any government records that were taken there to that office. But I don't know what's in the documents. My lawyers have not suggested I ask what documents they were. I've turned over the boxes. They've turned over the boxes to the archives, and we're cooperating fully with the review, and which I hope will be finished soon, and there'll be more detail at that time.
When your lawyer tells you to stop asking questions, you stop asking questions. Here's the thing. This response was for the first set of documents. You thought we were done, right? Far from it. When more documents were discovered, the questions became even tougher.
Classified material next to your Corvette? What were you thinking?
I'm going to get a chance to speak on all this, God willing, soon. But as I said earlier this week, people, and by the way, my Corvette's in a locked garage. Okay, so it's not like you're sitting out in the street.
So
but anyway,
was in a locked garage.
Yes, as well as my Corvette. But as I said earlier this week, people know I take classified documents and classified material seriously. I also said we're cooperating fully and completely with the Justice Department's review. As part of that process, my lawyers reviewed other places where documents from my time as vice president were stored, and they finished the review last night. They discovered a small number of documents of classified markings in storage areas and file cabinets in my home and my personal library. This was done in the case of the Biden Penn. This was done in the case of the Biden Penn Center. The Department of Justice was immediately, as was done, the Department of Justice was immediately notified, and the lawyers arranged for the Department of Justice to take possession of the document. So we're going to see all this unfold.
The key takeaway here is that they're still finding more top secret documents. Democratic Representative Hank Johnson already suggested that the timing of these documents coming out, they're a bit off. I initially thought that Johnson was probably just defending the president, but another idea came to mind. What if he was right? What if these documents were planted to hopefully move him away from the 2024 presidential election? What if this could be just one of many opportunities being seized to diminish his influence over the party so that someone else can step up and be the guy or girl for the Democrats come 2024? I mean, this office that they were referring to was open in 2018, and it's been how many years since he was a VP? And now these documents are just now coming out a year before the next presidential elections? But news outlets, you gotta love the news outlets, huh? They're already spinning it into autopilot mode, and they're bombarding us with the differences between Trump's secret documents and President Biden's secret documents. A political analyst, Professor Joe Siracusa of Curtin University, says that the mainstream media are going way out of their way just to argue the differences between the two. He added this, quote, "If you have documents that are classified, it's not that big of a deal unless, of course, you're using them to leverage something," end quote. To that point, check out what CNN put out. I know how you guys feel about CNN, but hear me out. And just like any savvy journalist who knows how to spin public thought, Andrea Mitchell of NBC tweeted this back on January 10th of this year, which is the same time when President Biden was in Mexico. But check this out. From her tweet, it said this, quote, "I interviewed Joe Biden in his office at the Penn Biden Center, where his lawyers say that they found a small number of classified documents. As far as we know, very different from Trump hiding and withholding hundreds of documents despite requests and subpoenas, but GOP is pouncing," end quote. Now, is there a tunnel from Mexico to the Penn Biden Center? Was Dr. Strange within the area and teleported President Biden? Maybe they asked Superman or maybe the Flash to have this interview in the same day, because from her words, it seems like everything is in the present tense. Thankfully, I scrolled through the responses to see that this wasn't the case. There was no superhero carrying President Biden from Mexico to the Penn Biden Center. Instead, this interview took place back in February 9th, 2018. You can see that everyone has the same clothes on, unless, of course, they all talked about it and said, "Hey, you know what would be funny? Let's all wear the same clothes we wore 5 years ago." I highly doubt that happened. It really does seem like some outlets are going out of their way to put a stark contrast between both presidents. But let me ask you this. Is this what journalism has come to? Now, if you ask me, journalists should be asking the tough questions. Get to the bottom of all this. Here's an example from CBS Ed O'Keefe trying to make some sense of this entire timeline.
But this was reported Monday. It happened in November. Are you aware of any conversation in the West Wing among others, people other than the president, about disclosing this once it was discovered?
What I can say is I was asked by our colleague if we talked about the documents themselves. The president said he does not know what was in them, right? But also just wanted to clear that up. I understand you guys are going to have a lot of questions on this. I get that. I know you guys are going to have a lot of questions on process and specifics. And what I can tell you is that I'm not going to go beyond what the president laid out. I'm not going to go beyond what my White House counsel colleagues have stated.
Jean-Pierre basically says this multiple times until Ed O'Keefe goes back to the actual question.
The president was asked yesterday, but did not answer this part of the question. Why didn't he or someone in the White House inform the American people when these documents were discovered on November 2nd? Did it have anything to do, because people are asking this part of it, did it have anything to do with the fact that the election was just a few days away?
Again, Ed, this is under review by the Department of Justice. It is literally under review right now. As I am talking to you, it is under review. So I'm not going to get beyond the process. I'm not going to get beyond what the president said.
At this point, they should do a check on the total inventory at the National Archives. Check who pulled out what and then move from there. I don't see how hard this is for them to understand. If something's missing, go look for it. But again, the timing on this one is a little off. And here's what Vice President Kamala Harris said about it. Nothing. She hasn't even made as much as a whisper regarding this issue. Makes you wonder what's really going on over there. But am I reading too much into this? Or will 2024 bring a completely different political landscape for both parties? Whoever's running in 2024, it really doesn't change the fact that we're all going to be going through some serious, very challenging times. For people being forced to swipe their credit cards, to those on Social Security applying for SNAP and EBT benefits, there's a lot of ways to lessen the weight of the economy. And I'm really hoping that I can be instrumental in getting you back to financial freedom. Now, we can start with budgeting. That's crucial. But in order to budget something, you need to make cash. Now, we can talk about developing multiple streams of income through side hustles and small businesses. Or maybe you want to start becoming an investor, be it real estate or in the stock market. The lines are wide open. If you want to join us over in the Patreon community, there's a link in the description description down below. But before I go, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for your daily dose of the truth. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you on the next one. Be safe.